Hey everybody, Captain C.A. Richardson from Flats Class YouTube. And in this fishing tip, I'm going to show you 3 ways to keep from being skunked the next time you're out fishing. Stay tuned. All right, how do you keep from getting skunked? Well, this is a question that is asked of me in every live fishing school, nearly on a weekly basis in my emails. Or many times when we're doing the live, Instagram live Monday night fishing segment. Well, the number one reason that people get skunked is they're fishing where there aren't any fish. I mean, it's really pretty simple. The old adage of 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water is true. So you have to understand where that activity zone is. To understand that, you have to pay attention. So you're going to be looking for bird activity. You're going to be looking for bait fish activity. You're going to be looking for obvious signs of fish where you're seeing strikes and sprays of bait. But bird activity and bait fish activity are pretty easily, or I should say, quite obvious. So look for where those mullet schools are. Look for where you see the glass minnows are. Anywhere you see that groove on the flat, from the mangrove edges or the marsh edges all the way out to the first drop off where there's a depth contour, wherever that bait fish is, probably where the fish are going to be. If it's a lower tide, it's where those waiting birds are, or just in front of them. That's clue number 1 to keep from being skunked, because if you're not seeing that, you're not where the fish are. Factor number 2, you have to adjust to the height of the water. So where the water is, as it moves in, the fish move with it. So you have to adjust, if you will. So let's say arbitrarily at 8 o'clock in the morning, the water was low and you were fishing the outside edge of a flat or a point. And the fish seemed to be right there at the drop-off. 2 hours later, probably 10 to 18 inches of water have moved up on the flat. And the fish aren't on the edge anymore. Now they're up on the middle of the flat. So you have to adjust. You have to follow them. What's going to help you keep track of them? That bait fish activity and how far those birds move further and further back, closer to the main shoreline. That's what's going to give you your adjustment. Keep paying attention. Be aware of your surroundings. Understand where that bait fish activity groove is and where those birds are where you should be. I mean, look up, look for the ospreys, look to see where the terns are diving. They're all going to be feeding on something. And even if there's a few herons around that are wading in the water, those are all clues to where you should be fishing. You're not fishing where the bird activity is or where the fish activity is and adjusting to that slide up in and out of the flat, you're missing something big there. The third way to keep from being skunked is when you're struggling finding the bait fish activity, finding the bird activity, not exactly sure where you should be because the tide's not moving enough to create a lot of tide height. Well, that's when you got to go cold calling. That's a sales term. That's when you got to cover water. And when I say cover water, you're going to have to cover water fast. You're going to need basically minnow style baits. You're going to be fishing as fast as you can. Now, are there exceptions to this rule? Of course there are. If it's freezing cold outside, fishing fast, probably not going to be that productive. But let's face it, most of us fish spring, summer, and fall. Wintertime, we're fair weather fishermen, or we fish later in the day when it's warmer. I'm a Floridian, so typically I'm fishing those warmer days. So if you're going to cover a lot of water, you have to choose lures that will allow you to cover a lot of water. That's not throwing little shrimp, or worms, or modified baits to look like crabs. That's not what you're going to be throwing. You're not going to throw jerk shads even, because jerk shads, you got to move them too slow typically. You need to be throwing minnow style baits, something that mimics minnows. Spoons, swimming a bucktail jig, pulse, 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 fast as you can reel it, pulse, pulse, pulse. Fast moving twitch baits like the Elvis's back or the Dark and Stormy. Or better yet, 2 different size paddle tails, either 3-inch or 4-inch. Rig them on jig heads, or in this case, this is the best, the Texas eye, because it's a jig head and it's weedless all in the same motion. Or you can put them on rigging hooks and just swim them. The important thing is you're swimming them, because what you're trying to achieve is long casts and then get it back quickly. Long casts, get it back quickly. Trying to cover water and maximize the number of presentations. If I cast 800 times in a day and you're standing next to me and you only cast 400 times in a day because you're working a little shrimp, I got 400 more opportunities to catch a fish than you do. Law of averages says I outfish you. So it sounds simple, how to keep from getting skunked. I'm making it sound a little bit maybe too simplified, but honestly, day in and day out, not all of us have a great day. In a 30-day period, I mean, it's tough to be great every day. But one of the best ways to avoid that and at least have solid days is to understand where are the fish. And that's where the bait fish are, or the wading birds, or the dipping birds. They're going to tell you where the groceries are, and that's where you should be fishing. 2, the tide height. You got to understand where the fish are on the flat, whether they're on the outside, right down the center of the flat, or up close to the mainland shore, whether that be a marsh edge or a mangrove edge or whatnot. Is there some type of structure on that flat? Oyster bars or something that would attract them, that would put them there. That would be another factor. Lastly, 3rd thing, you really have to understand that if there aren't a lot of fish and you're not fishing in the right area, especially those of you that wade fish or kayak fish, you're going to have to do something else. And that something else is cover water. What I'm telling you to do is fish fast. So you need to choose lures that fish fast. Paddle tails, bucktails, spoons, fast-moving twitch baits. You've got to fish quickly, cover ground, power fish. If you do that, you will catch fish even on the toughest days. I always say, the harder the fishing is, the faster you have to fish bait to be successful. So, hopefully these 3 tips eliminate you getting skunked the next time you're out on the water. Hope this little tip put something in your head, get you thinking. Maybe you'll catch more fish the next time out, no matter how tough it is. Until next time, Captain C.A. Richardson, signing off.